Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today I'm going to be making a leather sheath with an inlay. It's going to be for a knife I just finished recently. It's a canister gomai. Pretty interesting take on a bushcraft model that I make. So let's start by making the welt. And the welt I like to make, I usually start with the same thickness roughly as the spine of the knife. So this piece of leather I have is pretty thick. I start by tracing the knife, get that cut out, and then I will cut out the bottom piece of the shell for the leather sheath. Once I have these pieces cut out, I'm going to go ahead and glue them together. It just makes it easier for me when I start drilling holes later. Got to make sure everything fits. Once everything's dry, I'll go over it with my scribe tool and start punching holes through. And this will give me even spacing for the holes when I go to stitch. Once I have the basic layout, I'll go over it again with my drill press, and that will ensure that the holes go all the way through. And again, this is just for the back side of the leather sheath. Now we're going to change directions here. Once we have this done, I'm going to trace another piece of leather and get the top cut out. Now what I'm doing here is making a groove for the stitching. That way it lays flush in the leather, not just on top. So once we have that done, we'll get this last piece traced out. This is going to be the top side of the sheath. Make sure all your pieces are orientated the right way so you have your good pieces facing out. And yeah, just take your time, cut out all the pieces, and then we're going to drill through from the back to the front now. That way we have the entire shell. The holes are drilled and aligned and ready to go. So from here, I'm going to use my template that I just reused. So it's a piece of paper that I have cut out shapes, and I align them as best I can on top, leaving equal amounts of space on either side. And then I just go take my time and cut out these shapes by hand. Now you want to be sure to save your pieces when you're done, because we're going to cut them just a sliver off each side. That way we can reuse them. This is what's going to help create the 3D effect with the inlay. You want that inlay to kind of pop out. So you want those pieces to be a little bit smaller so they'll fit in. From here, we're just going to die our top piece and get it glued to the actual inlay. We already did the hole spacing for all the stitching. Now, sometimes the glue likes to come out, so take my time and get rid of all those little spots. And then we're going to go ahead and drill through the smaller holes for the inlay and get ready for stitching. Now I went ahead and did one real quick to show you. There are 3 separate stitchings. So I just went ahead and did the rest off camera real quick. Now we want to make sure we cover the stitching, so I went ahead and glued it to another thin piece of leather. And that is what is going to hide the stitching there. So now we just need to drill the outside holes again, and those are the same ones that we started with, so that should line up no problem with the bottom piece that we started with. So we'll go ahead and start with the belt clip on the back. And again, this just happens to be the same size as the ruler that I have. I'll go ahead and mark the spacing, punch the holes. And then while we let that dry, we're going to do the backside maker's mark and some stamping. And then we got to wait for the leather to dry before we dye it. Otherwise the dye doesn't soak up in the leather properly. So always make sure your leather's dry after you're done tooling. And then from here, it's just assembly time. So we're going to start assembling the belt clip on there, start sanding the tops. And I like to sand the top with everything together before I sew everything, because you can't exactly slick the edges on top there once they're together forever. So just trying to make a nice round top, nothing too fancy. But I use office clips and some needles to keep everything aligned up for the holes. So that's kind of how it looks before the final suturing or stitching. From here, we're just going to glue up the last two pieces. And again, I'm going to use office clips and needles to make sure all the holes are aligned. Just doing a simple saddle stitch, 2 needles on 1 strand, and then from here it's cleanup time. So I'm going to do the outside perimeter, except the top that we already cleaned up, of course. And then once I have everything cleaned up, we use some edge coat and then a wax buffing cloth and antler. And that's it. Mink oil is kind of new for me. I just bought it recently, but I think it works very great. I like the smell of it. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Here's our finished product. It's still kind of drying right now, so I'm hoping the middle inlay will lighten up a bit. All right, that's gonna do it for today's video. Here is the sheath finished up. The mink oil is still fresh, so I'm assuming it'll lighten up that inside inlay there. It's a very nice gray, now it looks black. But we'll see how it looks after it dries. Here's the back side of it. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome in, consider subscribing. And thanks for hanging out with me in the workshop. We will see you guys on a video very soon. Have an awesome day.